Welcome to the Intuitive Hour with psychic medium, author, and intuitive life coach, Michelle Beltran. The Intuitive Hour will empower you to learn how to magnify your intuitive voice. Listen in and expand your understanding of what it means to be psychic and how to awaken, amplify, and trust your inner voice.
Welcome back to the Rhonda Swan Show. This is season 4, and we have been bringing in guests and people that have been doing magical things in their life. It doesn't mean that their life came out magical. It means they took the experiences and things that happened to them in their life and turned them into their greatest gifts. We've been talking about frequency, intuition, bringing your higher self to the world, right? That is what we stand for, right? We just launched the book Women Gone Wild, and we've got more of these authors that are coming forward, and it's about embracing all of this beauty that comes from you, and how can you leave a bigger impact on the world with your gifts? Well, my next guest is Michelle Beltran. She's actually from California, where I just left, 13 years ago. But she's inspired really by her father because she began her first career in law enforcement inside the Air Force. She traveled to the US and Far East in this line of work and often found herself thrust into situations requiring her to manage the authority she had been given. And the tactful handling of the sensitive and stressful situations. Like, I can't even imagine this, Michelle. We have to talk about this. But more importantly, she dealt with human and social problems that helped her gain insightful and understanding into different people, their personalities, and their problems. She lived among men and women and children who rarely had enough food to eat, and they struggled to find a home, clothing, and had limited opportunity for personal and self-advancement. This was a really eye-opener for her, enriching experiences that Michelle actually believes that broadened her understanding of the economic, social, and political processes at work in these developing countries and inside the world. From experience, Michelle knows that human beings are capable of great change. During her first career as a probation officer, Michelle's belief in a person's capacity for deep, permanent changes made her commit to assist those who most need it, and to find inspiration and purpose to transform their lives. While a probation officer, Michelle worked tirelessly to implement the first ever canine narcotic drug detection program at the department. The canine program was one of the 5 assigned to a probation department in the state of California. The opportunity to work as a narcotic drug canine handler during the same period nourished Michelle's love of the animal spirit. She cherished the relationship with her canine partner, Kilo, and it's a powerful connection untouchable by spoken words. Wow, like, Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's so great to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, like, reading this, I'm like, wow, this woman, like, you've done a lot of stuff.
Thank you. I've been busy. I had some momentum going from one thing to another, just a passion for life, I guess. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, doing some of the work, being psychic and intuitive, though, is you were in law enforcement. Like,
yes.
That's a completely different world. How did we go from law enforcement? But it seems as if you found your heart inside of law enforcement as a probation officer as well. But how did you say yes to that world, but then, leave it?
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, I am very inspired by my father, who was also in law enforcement. It just sort of made sense to do that right out of high school. And actually, not right out of high school. I was in college for a year or two before going in, but very inspired by my father, and to have the opportunity to travel the world a bit, and just an experience that I describe that time as very magical, broadening my horizons on every level, most certainly contributing to the work that I'm doing now.
Yeah. And,
one of the things I feel like when kind of tying in the business now, I feel like clients actually really they sort of raise an eyebrow to that, because I think we have these notions that someone who is intuitive or psychic is going to be in gypsy garb and have a crystal ball or something,
airy-fairy, right?
Well, that creates, law enforcement, the athletics I've been involved in, it sort of creates a normalcy.
Yeah.
it is normal. And we actually all have this resource to tap into, right? So I think that law enforcement definitely laid the groundwork. Even back then, I would say I was using the intuition, the psychic knowing, but more, I didn't know then. I would describe it more as a gut sense when it came to choices and decision making, just an internal knowing about things that I just listened to really without knowing, right? Like lots of people out there today have this going on. They just don't know it and they don't know how to tap into it.
Yeah, okay, so this is really good. I think we talk a bit about like this inner voice, and that's that intuition, right? And how you're guiding it. So when did you really start finding that inner voice? Because I think, I mean, I would say, you know, you being in, and maybe this is part of my belief system, like you being in law enforcement, you know, yeah, you might have this inner guidance. However, now you've got these laws you have to abide by. But like you found it, removed yourself from that, and not really found that space. Like how did you start that journey? And I want to like talk about how others can start doing the same.
Right. Well, interestingly for me, I actually started at a very young age. I had just this appetite and curiosity for intuition and psychic knowing and meditation and that sort of thing. And as a child, largely influenced by my mom, who was also, she's a healer and an energy worker, and also has gone through some psychic development and learning. And so we had that influence. So as a child, it was safe to talk about esoteric things or, you know, otherworldly things, and to meditate. And so my first psychic reading was actually at 9, not that I gave, that I received. So at that age, I was already interested. So it was there really young. And then I just, you know, I would say throughout around my 20s, late 20s or so, I just had this really voracious appetite to read and learn more about otherworldly concepts and metaphysical and spiritual, and then so I did that, and then shortly after that, like a lot of I'm finding in my work, many people do experience. My world just sort of tumbled. Everything just went sort of chaos, from losing a job to health issues after racing a bicycle. I dropped into a real chronic fatigue space in my life, and relationship was awry. And so I found myself actually sleeping on my mom's living room floor, right? And so I had one place to go, and that was in. And that's when I really started learning and developing and getting some formal education in all of this, and just opening that door to something that was there for a long, long time from childhood. And I think I just so I went through a few years of development, and, you know, we are our past. So everything I've done, law enforcement, athleticism, it all just sort of contributed. And I find that now it's sort of rippled into the work as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, like we always say, we always have it inside of us, right? Everyone's got it inside of us. However, in society, it's like we've become numb to these powers, right? Like we are all healers. We all can literally tap in. I've been having these conversations. It seems like every show, those that were in like either very masculine driven, you know, careers, or they led their life more masculine, are starting to really flow more into that feminine, and they're just listening to that inner guidance. What would you say for some people, like tools that they could use to tap into that? Because we say it, but how can someone like really tap into their psychic and their intuitive inner voice?
Yeah. So I first would recommend someone interested in kind of tapping into this just to take some time to brainstorm and see what's out there. There's so many different modalities. Oh, there's numerology and remote viewing and mediumship, and well, who hasn't picked up an astrology book, right? So if you're coming into it, is what is all this? So I would suggest to take some time to just sort of brainstorm or research and just get a foundation of what's out there in the metaphysical.
Well, what about like average? What about just an average person? Not even, you know, understanding it as a profession. More like, how do I start listening into my inner guidance? You know?
Okay, two things. I'll tell you two things. The first is going to sound so trite, but it's so true, and it's about meditation. If I had a superpower and could wave a magic wand, I'd teach everyone to meditate, right?
Well, then what is it? Hold on, really quick. The Hiroshima, because you might know this. You know the Hiroshima effect?
Oh, absolutely,
right?
I do.
Right?
I wanted to talk about that tonight. Thank you.
Okay,
That's
good.
so
I'm like,
powerful.
if we all just meditated, the world would change.
Well, and here's the thing with meditation that makes it so valuable is that, we tend to just go all day long, right? There's never a moment to just sort of not have thought going on and just quiet the mind. And when you quiet the mind, then this information can come in that you can access that higher source and receive that. And so, and quite honestly, meditation has, you could take a beginning person developing their ability and a very advanced one, and the beginning student could be perform just as well if they have meditated, because in meditating we quiet our mind and we master the ability to quiet that left brain. That's the trick. That's the secret, right? So that's so valuable. The other thing I would say though is we have to receive this information somehow, and it comes through our senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, sound. So we have to bring in that information and hear it, we're going to use our senses in a heightened sort of way. So I always recommend, to get started, go to a zoo, go to a farmer's market, go somewhere that's really sensory rich, and pay attention, slow down in that space, observe, pay attention to not only what you see, but what you feel, what you hear. Really say hello to those senses and open them, because that's from a subtle space anyway, but that's how we receive this information. So students coming in learning, we do a sensory field trip. And that says to your subconscious, that's you setting an intention, saying, I want to do this. Your subconscious has to listen when you do that, by the way, no exceptions. and it begins to open up those higher sensory areas in your life so that you can receive that information.
Wow.
Those are the two main tips I would say to get started.
This is really, really good advice. Like a sensory field trip. Like literally going and feeling the senses. It's obviously I live here in Bali, Indonesia, right? So everything is very lush, and there's so much greenery and the birds, and so we're very appreciative of that. But how does someone, what if someone is stuck in New York City and they are like, but it's kind of almost the same. You just don't get the nature effect, right?
Yeah, same thing though. It doesn't matter where you go. It just a zoo. It could even be out in nature, right? Yeah. A quiet place. You're just tuning in to feeling what's underneath your feet, touching something, and what's the temperature of it, noticing what's high and noticing what's low, and just on a deeper level tuning into all those senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, sound, feel, emotion. Is it creating that within you when you go down over in this section versus over this section of the store or wherever it is you are, right? It's just a hello to those senses to get them to start working.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone, I tell you, right now the world needs this kind of stuff, Michelle. Like everyone's so stuck in their screens, they get stuck on the computer, and they stop even just connecting. And even more and more, we're starting to feel. I had this conversation with one of my other guests. It's like we're moving from this old Earth operating system, right, into this new Earth, and the new Earth is connection. It's feeling. It's much softer, right? In business is being done differently. This is like there's shifts that are taking place in people's lives. You said that you studied quite a bit in this area. You went from obviously law enforcement. How did you actually find yourself from law enforcement and going in and really starting to study deeply into the psychic powers, intuition, and what would you say is like the science actually behind that supports it? Because
Yeah. So I'll say there's definitely science out there,
For
right?
sure.
And I'm passionate about this. I teach it. It's like a kid in the candy store with this. But there is an arm of it that is scientific, and those experts are out there. I suggest, International Remote Viewing Association, Russell Targ, he wrote the book ESP Reality. He's doing some wonderful research. Institute of Noetic Science, they're all out there doing research on all of this. I love this question. It actually sort of brings in that concept of skepticism.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I also love and
right?
welcome. And so here's this, I'm a skeptic right here from the get-go, especially being in law enforcement. I was kind of like, I need to see the proof here. And so in my early learning, once you do it and you're in it and you feel it and you see that how it works and it happens, it's kind of jaw-dropping. So I felt that, experienced it early on. So I have that, but also I see it in my students and the studies and such that I've done. But I do really appreciate that we've got this healthy skepticism to inspire conversation. And that's the only way this is going to grow. This is a little bit, I think the veil is thinning a little bit for sure. And people, it's no longer taboo, to be studying or learning about this. I have clients of all walks, attorneys, lawyers, doctors, military folks, housewives, college students, celebrities. It knows no color. Everybody is curious about this.
Yeah.
But anyways, to answer your question, I appreciate it very much. And that science is out there. Maybe I can, after the show, provide some of the links to people,
for sure.
Where listeners can go check all that out. But I was a skeptic in the beginning, and I would encourage anyone coming into this to have that healthy sense of skepticism too. And wherever they're going to learn, make sure it's credible and do their research for sure.
Well, I mean, I think it's, it's no, like you said, it used to be taboo, but it's no longer, spirit and, our consciousness and our subconscious are no longer connected. Like it doesn't even, it's like those that are unconscious might say that, but now it's so real. And now I believe people are starting to wake up to the fact that if you're questioning creation, like how is a woman giving birth to a child? These are like some of the things, if you like, how do you question, right? This beauty, right? Where does this come from? You know what I mean? Like these simple things.
Absolutely. Well, clearly there's something beyond us, beyond humans, something bigger than us, right? And most people have had some kind of unique experience that's unexplainable. Most people have maybe felt like they've been stared at. Psychic learning and ability and intuition, it is on I like to define it actually as, pockets of genius, moments of epiphanies, altered consciousness, where Mozart is when he is composing, where the artist is. When we say, oh, I knew it, that's what we're talking about here. We all have access to it. It's there, and it's a natural part of who we are. I'm just delighted to see more and more people so curious about this.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter, it's beautiful. She brings new understandings to me every day, and because she's very grounded and she's so tapped in. I mean, she's a star being. We already know that. She chose us to come and have this planetary life. And it's like, you can just feel it. And, it's interesting because she's also an artist. And I recall, like, the way she talks about when she's in her zone of art is how I was. I was an athlete as well. And I would run, and I would just be, they say that runner's high, where you just feel like you can go forever. And I know you were an athlete, right? And riding, right? So it's almost like that, like you're always in your zone, right?
Yes.
This is where we find it.
Yeah. I use the very same explanation, that runner's high, and speaking, kind of going back to the meditation, there's all different kinds of meditation. The runner's high is one of them. So even though I recommended that, it doesn't necessarily you're on that pillow chanting Om, for half an hour a day. That's great if you do it, and it's wonderful. But there's other ways of quieting that mind and going into that space, that zone.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Me too. I mean, I'm a pretty active person. So if I'm just sitting, I do get bored, right? And however, I know how to find that meditative state in everything that I do, and there's like 3-4 times a day, I just stop, clear my mind, and get into that space. So Michelle, how is it that you're now currently working with clients? Like, what is it that you actually do with and for them?
Yeah. So I have usually it seems to be clients come in for different matters: health, finances, career. The most prominent is we talk about relationship. People are at junctures in life, moving to new careers, moving home. Maybe there's a health issue, but most often there's some sort of relationship thing going on. I feel like that's kind of one of the, we have relationships with everything in life, right? Whether it's our car, our home, our house, or it's all about relationship, whatever it is anyway. So it sort of comes down to that.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Because we say a lot, like, what's your relationship with money? Like, that's,
for sure. Yeah. And how to process through that healthy. One of the things that I found really early on was that, of course, people know, I have this intuitive sense or psychic sense, whatever we want to call it. And so I realized early on that people were indeed coming in for sessions and information around that, but they also started asking questions about relationship and life and various things. I thought, I better get up to speed and get really ready for this. So I pursued some education and training and to be able to help on that level too. So now it's kind of a mix of intuitive, psychic sort of information coming in, but also that life coaching, consulting, counseling sort of element. I'm not a therapist or a counselor. I refer that out for sure when that needs to happen. But definitely I've noticed from the beginning, it's a combination of those two.
And just, I think I always say it's whatever really works for you, right? If you find someone that can help pull those things out of you, because I think you said it as well earlier, it's always in us. It's just someone who's able to help find a way to get that through, to get that healing out, or to get that awareness out. And, I think, go ahead.
Well, you raise such a good point, and I often, so clients after the session, towards the end or later, the feedback will be, gosh, I knew that, and I knew that too, and that too, and I tell them, well, you did, you knew it. Our work together a lot of times is me just sort of seeing on an intuitive level what's there, and kind of working through that. So wonderful point. They often do already have that inside them,
and it's so empowering, right? Like to be able to hold that space for someone. It's so empowering to be like, okay, you've got it. I'm just kind of holding this space for you. All of a sudden, someone's like, oh yeah, really, I can do this, And I think it's really beautiful. Michelle, I heard that you did write a book on psychic development called, was it Take the Leap? Was it called?
Yes.
Yeah. What was the inspiration behind that book? Tell us a little bit about it, because I want to send people there, because I'm excited for them to read it.
Yeah, that was a psychic development book I wrote. I was being asked to do that. Like the feedback was, when was I going to do that? Like I said, I'm just so passionate about this. I'm just, when you love something a whole lot, you just want everyone to do it too,
exactly.
Right? You think they should want to share it. So like in that light, I was like that kid in that candy store, sharing, wanted to get this out. But, I think the major thing behind that, and this is something that two of my teachers told me, 2 separate occasions, but they said to me, this psychic learning, this intuition, no matter what you do with it, it's not about being psychic, right? They said to me, and they said it's about self-actualization, and I remember early on, I thought to myself, okay, because I really thought it was about, the psychic visions and all this wonderful jaw-dropping kinds of moments of names and dates and images that were accurate. That was just something beyond me. But I began to realize, it really is about that. And they were so right. And so I wrote the book because I think deep down the most important thing was that it this work changes you no matter what you do with it. It's there's a level of there's certainty and autonomy and a sense of knowingness about who you are and where you're going. And the unknowns become safe. If it's like this on-demand sort of knowing that's very natural, just tapping into that source. And so I felt like, that's such a beautiful thing. Everyone should have that, right? Let's learn about, let's do this self-actualization thing, and let's let that book be the vehicle for that. So that was probably one of the most significant.
Yeah. Where can we find that book? Is it on Amazon? Where can you find it?
Oh, for sure. It's on Amazon, on my website.
So take the leap.
Barnes and Noble. Yeah, take the leap, what it really means to be psychic. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So I'm excited because you're also going to be an author in this book, right? In Women Gone Wild. And, this has really become such a dear, it's like a part of my heart, it feels like, to be able to hold that space for women to tell their stories and inspire each other. Why is it that you actually said yes? Like, what did you say yes for?
It's an interesting thing. I've kind of, the last year and a half or so, I went through a lull, right? We all get there. Like, what's next? I'm sort of spinning my wheels, and I've done this a couple times in life, and I was always, I always said, okay, I don't really have that knowing quite yet, but I know it's coming.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna just let it be. But there was a sense of something big, this new tribe, like what's next? And I started feeling like I wanted to get this message out, this work out even more. I was missing being with like-minded others. I love listening to the powerhouse women in this book and that you're interviewing and just that are out there. I love learning about their story, and I just was starting to feel like I want to rub elbows with that, I think. And so I've actually been following your work and what you're doing for quite a time. And gosh, this opportunity came up, and I knew in a moment. Like I knew in a moment. And suddenly like the sun was shining in my world again around what's next and getting excited about next events. But
well, it's like
anyway,
it's that divine orchestration, right? All of a sudden it's like weaving and booming, here we are. Well, I'm so honored, Michelle, certainly to be here in your space, to learn from you, and to be a co-author in this next book. I mean, like this work that you do, that we're now bringing out to the world, it's so needed. Women deserve to feel into each other, to know that we're here to support each other, to know that we're all diverse and unique, and we're here for each other. So with that, Michelle, thank you. Where can everyone find you? Where's the best place they can find you? I'll also put the links around here too. Is there a specific place they can go? And do you play on Instagram? Where would you send people?
Yeah, I would send everyone to michellebeltran.com, and my social medias are there. They can access I have a intuitive development podcast that's there or on iTunes, but Michelle Bell capsule, if you will. And so
perfect.
That's where I send them.
All right. Well, we'll make sure everyone knows how to find you, my dear. And thank you again. Let's change the world with our gifts. And for that, I will send you on your way.
Chills. Thanks. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, guys, can you imagine, right? Tapping into that intuition, just feeling into your intuitive self, being the person that takes someone else's life to the next level just by you being you. And Michelle is a beaming example of how to take that leap, how to actually tune into your psychic self. Know that you have every answer inside of you.
Kick off the new year with 25% off a 30-minute session with Michelle. Visit michellebeltran.com and click on Sessions. Then use the coupon code IntuitiveHour25 when you check out. This special offer is available for a limited time. Book your session with Michelle today at michellebeltran.com.